Okay, welcome back to our last step of doing the peeled paint look with the Timeworn product. And you want to make sure that you're using the Timeworn with the wonderful furniture paints from Vintage Market Design and their wonderful wax. These have all been formulated to work together, and you're going to see as we process this how they kind of activate each other. And we don't know what would happen if we substituted something else that had a different chemical makeup than these. So we're using all of these from the same line because then we can be assured that we're going to get the results that we want and not have something unexpected happen. That's never fun when you get to the 4th or 5th level layer of your paint to have something go awry. So we want to avoid that. So for this final coat of New Leaf, just as with the others, we've blown it dry, so it's dry to the touch, but it's not cured. And so what I'm going to do is take my Timeworn the final time and apply it randomly here and there. And again, pretty thick. And you're going to see when we start working with this that it almost has like a pumice effect or a little bit of a grittiness to it that's going to help you with your polishing of your edges on your peeling paint. So it's not going to look like it's rolled up like a latex paint might look. It's actually going to have a nice polished effect. Then, because I want to work my colors together and have them look like they're really married to each other nicely and not too glaringly different from each other, even though the colors we used are different, I am using the dark umber wax, which is luscious. You can use this wax, and we have been using it a lot lately to polish furniture. It's low VOC, hand poured with earth pigments, and you always want to make sure you mix the wax up when you first open it, because when you first open it, it looks almost clear on top with some little flecks of color, and then once you start working towards the bottom and stirring it up, you're going to get this luscious, rich pigment in it throughout the entire tin of wax. And this is wonderful to use on furniture. Oftentimes I will do the top of a bureau or a table, leave it natural and just wax it, because this will fill in all the scratches and water rings and problems, and then buff it down so that you've got a lovely polished surface, and then I'll paint the bottom, and that gives you a nice French look with a natural top and a bottom that's been painted. So that's something to try. So today what we're going to do is just put this wax on, and the wonderful thing about this wax is it doesn't grab. You notice I didn't have to put clear on first to make this work. I can go right over my surface with the dark, and it's not going to grab and give me blotchiness. It's just going to glide and move cleanly over the surface. Okay, we don't want to stop there, do we? That's not good. So what I'm going to do is use a terry cloth rag. For this step, you want to have something that's got some tooth to it, that's got some texture, because you're going to start grabbing all those layers that you've got on there with the Timeworn layered in between the paint, and it's going to pick it up and move it and start going through to all those colors. So I'm starting out with kind of a wad like this, and a circular motion seems to work best. Going up and down just doesn't take off the layers the way you want. So I'm going to start going this way. And I'm rubbing pretty hard. This is where you get your workout in. You want to push and rub. What I like to do is go over it, get it mixed up a little bit, and then go to a clean new part of my rag where it's going to, because when you get to this point, the texture's matted down from the wax and the paint. So I'm going to a new part of my rag where I've got that tooth again, and then start rubbing. And you can see how it's starting to come through. And every time it kind of feels like it's grabbing, switch to a clean part of your rag. Okay, so we've moved the board's position slightly so that I can reach it easier because I'm not a very tall person. And we're going to continue with this rag. And I'm doing a circular motion, and look how that starts grabbing. And every time it starts to get a little cloudy looking, I just go to a new part of the rag. And if it starts feeling too dry, put a little bit more of your Timeworn in there to give it something to work with. Because as I said, that has almost like a little polishing something in it that helps that come off. I like to kind of go over it once and spread it out, and then go over it again, and then it really starts to grab. This is so much more of an organic look and more natural looking than sanding because it's totally random. And because I put the paint on in a cross-hatching motion and not going with the grains, I'm getting some real fun textural interest in here. If you can see that, there's strokes going in different ways. And it's just a natural look. So I've got a little bit of my white coming through here and here, the capri, the gypsy, and then of course the new leaf on top. I'm going to put a little bit more Timeworn. And I don't know how those paint scientists came up with it, but it's just remarkable to feel this. It's really nice. I'm not having rolly edges like you would if you were doing a common latex paint. It's actually seems to be burnishing itself, so the finish is not only layered, but it's smooth too. And I've even had it happen while using the Timeworn that if I put it on really thick, sometimes I can get it to crack a little bit. It's not a guarantee because that's not what it's made for, but it does do that sometimes. And again, every time it starts to get cloudy, I just go to a new area of the rag, and the circular motions are what's grabbing the most of it for me. Yes, look how when you get that Timeworn working into the wax, how it just starts pulling everything off underneath it. It's like magic. And if I had done this with sanding, can you imagine the mess I would have made by now? When I was a painting contractor in the old days, I used to wear gloves all the time because the materials that I worked with were so toxic and harsh, and this does not burn or sting or do anything harmful to your hands, which is another lovely reason to use it. And the advantage of this layered look is you can introduce colors into your decor without having to add too much. You can just pick up the color of a pillow or a cushion or a piece of furniture with this and feature a little bit of the color underneath, and you've got your color scheme all set up. And I love the way this wax just kind of makes all the colors work together. I think because it puts a veil of the dark umber over them, they just all seem like they go together more. So in some places I'm going to have a lot more of the capri. In other places the antique's going to be the prominent color. And in yet others it's going to be the gypsy. Fresh towel here. What do they do? Oh, they're there. And just for fun, let's just see how this, because I think I may have some under there. I'm going to put a little bit of the Timeworn and a little bit of the wax. Oh, looky there. It's taking it right off. It's like buried treasure. Let's do the same thing up here and see if we can get some of this to come off. This is a fun way to use the wax that you never would have thought of before. Why does it do that? I don't know, but it's cool that it does. I'm going to do a little bit there because I want to see some more of that turquoise. Okay, so what I would do to finish this, I would probably ideally like to rub some more off and have it be even more layered of a look, but just for the sake of not keeping you watching me for too many hours, I'm going to go ahead and just do a final buff here with this, because the textured towel is what's doing the work for me. And then I'm going to grab one of those nifty microfiber towels and give it a final polish. The microfiber towels are excellent for grabbing the wax, because that's a problem that we've probably all encountered at one time or another. It's putting on too much wax, and it just takes it off so that you're not left with stickiness or tackiness or anything like that. And it's also helping to promote that really lovely finish that you end up with. I just can't get over how nice that feels. So the wax is absorbing into the surface and evaporating on top, and I'm getting rid of the excess. Okay, and we are not done yet. We have finished the wax and the Timeworn, polishing the entire surface and pulling off the Timeworn to get all the different colors. And the wax that we've used was the dark umber, and it did give us a little bit of antiquing here, and it's all buffed off. I don't have any stickiness or fingerprints on it, so I know we're safe to go forward. But what I like to do at this point is add just a little bit more of an antique effect, and there's several ways you can do this. You can use the Atelier glaze, and I would just do it in the recessed areas and wipe it off. But my personal favorite is the crowning touch. It's kind of a thick paste type of a glaze almost, and I'm just going to show you a really quick way to get an antique look. We've already got a pale brown wash over it from the raw umber wax, and so I'm just going to use one of these little small brushes and just go in where dust and dirt and age would settle if this was truly an old cabinet. And I kind of rub it on so that it goes into the recessed areas, and then I'm going to wipe off the high parts and leave that darkness in there. This is such an easy way to get an antique look without having to go over the whole piece and without having to do a lot of work. And so now that I've got that on there, and you want to make sure you don't do any area larger than this at once because it does dry, it's water-based. So I'm going to take a wet terry cloth rag, it's just damp actually, not wet, and I'm going to go over where I put that on and just kind of feather it out. And you keep moving to the clean part of the towel so that you're not just smearing it around. Then I'm going to take my dry brush with nothing on it, and I'm just going to go back in and stipple. And just a light touch, because you don't want to go too hard and remove what you just put on there. But a light touch will work it into the recessed areas and give you a little bit more depth to your surface. And I think this is really nice to do when you've got several colors like this because it ties them together. Now they have something in common. And I've got it with a little, almost a ridge in the towel, so I'm taking it off this middle area and leaving it inside here. And I'm going to do a little bit more on the outside of the cabinet door, where we've got this other indentation. Sometimes when I'm antiquing a piece, this is all I do. And especially if it's a piece that has a lot of carving or detail, because this crowning touch will work into the carving, and you've got your antique look without having to wax or glaze the entire piece. Make sure you clean off your dry brush a little bit in between, so again you're not smearing the colors around. And I would continue in that way on the entire piece, and you can see how that gives it a really mellow antique look. And once I get the crowning touch all over my entire piece, what I'm going to do is let this sit until tomorrow morning, and then I'll proceed with my clear coats. And I can either apply the clear coat with a damp cellular sponge and rub it on, or I can use a brush. And I can also use the matte finishing cream if I want to keep a very matte, chalky look to this. But that's how easy the crowning touch is. So have a lot of fun with it.